Okay, let's jump right into this explainer and uncover the blueprint for what might honestly be the most compelling structural arbitrage thesis of our time. And look, if structural arbitrage sounds like a bunch of heavy Wall Street jargon, don't worry. Just think of it as finding a hidden gem in one market, legally changing the rules of the game, and then selling it for a massive premium in another. Today, we're tracking down where that alpha, that really elusive premium return, is actually hiding. Because what we're looking at isn't some standard, off-the-shelf financial product. It's a meticulously engineered framework designed to take massive, trapped potential in a local market and export it directly to the global capital markets.
To really wrap our heads around this, think about Michelangelo's famous concept of the hidden masterpiece. The value we're looking at today isn't about inventing something entirely new out of thin air. It's about uncovering what is already right there in front of us. The core thesis here is that incredible cultural, technological, and industrial assets already exist in these markets. We don't need to build them from scratch. We just need to organize them properly and essentially chisel away all the inefficiencies.
And we are talking about a staggering $460 billion. To put that into perspective for a second, that is roughly the GDP of a medium-sized country, just sitting there totally idle. We're talking about above-ground assets representing 12,000 years of civilizational heritage, underground assets like 73% of the entire world's boron reserves, plus just immense human capital. This $460 billion figure isn't some hopeful guess either. It's the calculated delta of what actually happens when you apply a world-class structural methodology to a market that has historically operated without one.
So here's the roadmap for this explainer. We'll cover the hidden masterpiece, the great value leak, unveiling the IMECE plan, the AI transformation engine, the 36-month global roadmap, and finally, go to the capital.
Section 1. The Great Value Leak. A cautionary tale.
Now we have to make an absolutely crucial correction to a major historical assumption here. When looking at past privatization efforts, the figure $69 billion often gets thrown around as the total for the years 2004 to 2023. But that's wrong. That $69 billion was actually extracted just between the specific window of 2004 and 2009. Think about that stark contrast. If those exact same assets had been managed and offered through a proper, globally integrated model over the long haul, the potential was that $460 billion figure we just saw, which means nearly $400 billion in potential value was simply left on the table.
Let's do a forensic breakdown of the Teckle privatization as a case study to see exactly how this kind of value leak happens step by step. In 2004, 17 established factories and historic brands were handed over for a mere $292 million. 2 years later, boom, a 17% valuation jump. And by year 7, the company was sold to global giant Diageo for $2.1 billion. That's a staggering 619% spike. The market didn't magically invent that value out of thin air. It was always there. It was just totally invisible to the local market because they didn't have the right extraction methodology. Over $3 billion in value essentially evaporated from the origin market.
Which brings us to Section 2, unveiling the IMECE plan. So how do we stop this leak? Well, we've organized this core philosophy into what we call the IMECE plan. It's a direct nod to the traditional concept of collective community effort. Think about how a physical dynamo works. It takes raw mechanical friction and converts it into usable electrical energy. The IMECE plan does exactly that, but for economics. It takes the historical friction and uncoordinated, fragmented energy of local assets, whether that's underground resources or human capital, and instead of letting it dissipate, it converts it into directed, organized global power. And this is totally different from your traditional private equity playbook. Usually PE forcefully seizes the wheel. They bring cold cash, kick the original captain out, and disrupt the whole operation. The IMECE approach, on the other hand, acts as a navigator. It's more of a collaborative integration. Think of a local ship entering a complex international strait. The harbor pilot doesn't steal the ship, they just know exactly where the dangerous shallows and hidden currents are. That's what this model does. It safely guides local, family-run businesses into the deep, highly regulated waters of global stock exchanges.
Moving right along to Section 3, the AI transformation engine.
This brings us to a phrase that is literally our core motto here. The applicability of these assets to AI transformation is evolving into the revolution of the next century. We aren't just talking about traditional manufacturing anymore. We're talking about taking established legacy capacity and supercharging it with next-generation tech. And this specific transformation is powered by two highly distinct tech unicorns. First, we have IMECE AI operating as an invisible digital nervous system targeting an incredible 700 million people across the MENA region. And second, CAS, which acts as the ultimate authenticity scanner, kind of like the Yuka app, but for global tourism, verifying genuine cultural experiences for 1.28 billion global travelers.
And, the math to hit $1 billion unicorn valuation is actually surprisingly practical here. We aren't relying on wild tech bubbles. Capturing just 2% of that market, that's only 150,000 customers at $29 a month, yields a massive $52 million in annual recurring revenue. The runway to that $1 billion valuation is paved with highly attainable, rock-solid unit economics.
Section 4, the 36-month global roadmap. So, how do we actually execute this? We use what we call the top apex predators framework because it's a highly aggressive, top-of-the-food-chain approach aimed at total market dominance. It operates on a really strict 36-month liquidity clock. The first 12 months are all about brutal, methodical restructuring, taking a local company's accounting straight up to strict IFRS standards and building a proper board. Months 12 to 18, that's dedicated to picking the perfect global exchange and launching the IPO roadshow. And by month 36, you're done. You'll literally ring the gong on Wall Street or in Hong Kong.
But to pull that off, you need a perfect ecosystem. This table breaks down the mandatory interdependence of the three IMECE pillars. It's a triad that offers elite institutional investors completely unmatched transparency. The local network uses its deep-rooted relationships to get traditional businesses on board. The value masters step in to navigate Wall Street and actually structure the IPO. And the sectoral partners optimize the whole supply chain on a global scale. It's brilliant because absolutely everyone needs everyone for this to work. And the financial motor driving this entire 36-month roadmap is 3 Capital, which actively routes this immense value through 3 highly strategic global hubs. San Francisco acts as the command center for tech and innovation. Hong Kong serves as the vital bridge channeling Eastern and Western capital. And Istanbul represents the deep asset base, the rich, fertile ground where these resources actually live.
Finally, Section 5, go to the capital.
When you're looking at projected internal rates of return exceeding 30% and valuations jumping 3 to 10 times just by placing a constrained local asset into a highly liquid global arena, it all boils down to our final motto. If capital doesn't come to you, you go to capital. And this is the absolute proof of our 20-year-old foresight derived directly from that techo privatization case we looked at earlier. We've built this entire architecture on a solution that is so incredibly obvious, it frankly requires no further proof. You don't sit around waiting for foreign direct investment to eventually trickle in. You take that incredible local value, you apply a world-class methodology, and you export it directly to where the massive capital pools are already sitting.
The transformation has already begun. The chisel is firmly on the marble, leaving us to wonder just how the global markets are going to react to this $460 billion masterpiece as it finally comes out of the shadows. The roadmap is set, the methodology is proven, and that 36-month clock is officially ticking. So the only real question left is, who is going to be positioned to capture the alpha when the masterpiece is finally unveiled? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this completely changed how you view structural arbitrage and emerging market potential.